Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back everyone as we continue marching along Sefer Bereshit. We're up to this week, Parshat Toldot. Parshat Toldot starts off with Yitzchak and Rivka not able to having children, and they daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ויתר יצחק לאדוני לנוכח אשתו כי עקרה היא ויעתר לו אדוני ותהר רבקה אשתו. They prayed. And what are we told about this prayer? That Yitzchak didn't just pray, he continuously prayed. He prayed harba. That says Rashi. V'yitzir b'tfilah, he kept praying and praying and praying. Chazal tell us that Rivka Imenu didn't have a womb. Which means, technically, biologically, scientifically speaking, she couldn't have a child. There's no womb. There's no place for the child to grow. She doesn't have it. And Yitzchak Avinu is davening. And davening. And he's praying. And he's praying. Why? Because the Ratzon HaBoreh, what Hashem wants, is that we daven. That if we care about something enough, that we daven for it. Not to say, oh, there's no womb, there's nothing I can do about it. No, you're right, you can't do anything about it. But Hashem can. So you gotta daven. That's your job. Says Rav Shimshon Pinker, when one davens, he's not allowed to give up. You're not allowed to throw in the towel. When you finish one tefillah, you have to right away begin the next. Where do we say this every day in the tefillah? Where do we say this in the prayer? Towards the end of the prayer of Shacharit, what do we say? Kaveh el Hashem. What does that mean? What does it mean, Kaveh el Hashem? Hope. Right? Hope to Hashem, which means daven to Hashem. If you don't get answered, what do? Hazak ve'yametz libecha. You have to make yourself strong. You have to strengthen your heart. And do what? V'kaveh el Hashem. And daven to Hashem again. That's what we say in the tefillah towards the end. There's a reason why this pasuk is there. To tell us you just prayed. Great. And if you don't get answered, you daven again. And you go again at it. This is the way a person has to understand tefillah. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to get into Eretz Yisrael. He's praying. Prayer after prayer after prayer. He doesn't stop after 10. Doesn't stop after 20. He doesn't stop after 30. He goes up to 515. And then, if he would have prayed 516, he would have gotten to Eretz Yisrael. But Kadosh Baruch Hu had to tell him, you got to stop. You got to take a chill. No more. I can't let you in. Don't pray anymore. Because you pray, you're going to get in. And I don't want you to get in. But we see that tefillah works. The Talmud Yerushalmi says, Kol marbeh b'tefillah, anyone who increases his tefillah, he is answered. He gets answered because that's the way it is. It's just as you have a small child, if he keeps nagging you and asking for the same thing over and over and over again, the natural tendency of a parent is to give it. That's the Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's our Father, Avinu Shebashamayim, and He wants us to daven to Him. He's waiting for us to daven to Him. So it means we have to daven, and then we have to daven again, and then again, and then again, and again, and again, because that's what He wants. Rav Pinkus, they say a story that happened with Rav Pinkus. This is a story that we mentioned in the past, but it's a story that speaks volumes of what it means tefillah. We know that Rav Shimshon Pinchas, the Chatzir B'Bracha, tragically passed away young. He was in a car accident, him and his wife. He was a Rav in Ofakim. This is on the south. This was actually one of the cities, one of the areas that the terrorists got into on October 7th. And as the Rav of Ofakim, there was a young couple there, married for many years, and didn't have any children. And the young couple went to doctor after doctor. They went to Rebbes and they went to everything. Mekubalim. They tried everything. Segula after segula. Nothing helped. One day, Rav Shimshon Pincus went over to this man and said to him, there's a segula that I have that's guaranteed to work. But I can't tell you right now at the moment. Come to my house today at midnight, and I'll tell you the segula. And so this is what the man did. He was waiting all day for midnight to come. The Rav says he has a segula guaranteed to work. He comes to Rav Pincus's house at midnight. Rav Pincus doesn't say a word. And motions for him to follow him into the car. He gets into the car. He's waiting. What's the segula? And Rav Pincus starts to drive out. And he drives out 20, 30 kilometers away from Ofakim. And they're in the middle of the desert. He stops the car and he tells the man, now get out and daven. He says, what are you talking about? In the middle of the desert, where am I going? He says, this is exactly it. Here there's no one watching. Here there's no one looking. Here you can really talk to Hashem. Daven. Daven for you and your wife to have the baby. Daven, you're going to be answered. This is the segula. Get out. So the man said, okay. He got out. And Rav Pincus says, I'll be back in a half hour. The man really felt it. He davened. There's no one there. It's the middle of the night, the middle of the desert. It's just him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he davened. And Rav Pincus comes back a half hour later, and this man starts walking over to the car. Rav Pincus looks at him and shuts the door. He's not letting him open it. He says, Rav, let me get in. He says, no, you didn't daven yet. Get back out there and really daven. You have to really cry. You have to really get red in the face. You really have to daven. It's an avodah shebelev. It's a workout of the heart. You really have to sweat. So he said, I'll be back in another half hour. And he gave this young man another half hour, and this man was davening like never, ever before. He really was sweating. He was really red in the face. He was davening. And after half an hour, Rav Pincus came to pick him up, looks at him and says, now you davened. He takes him back into the car and brings him home. Almost exactly 9 months to the day, a baby boy was born to this family. Years and years of being childless, trying everything. But they really daven. There's a koach in a tefillah that a person doesn't stop davening. Rav Pincus would say over that he once met a family, that they were balei tshuva. And they had little kids, and they sent the kids to yeshiva, and the kids got married, and they got support for them. And then all of a sudden, the husband, he's in the middle of the father, the husband, he's in his mid-50s, and he was very successful at his business. All of a sudden, he starts to reduce his hours, and he starts spending more time in the Beit Midrash, starts spending more time in the Kollel, until eventually he became a full-time learner. This guy was a businessman for years. He didn't even know how to learn. He had to practice a lot and do a lot. And Rav Pincus inquired, how did this happen? And the wife of this man said that ever since we became balei tshuva, I wanted my husband to be a Talmid Chacham. And so I've been davening since day one that we became back to religion, that my husband one day will become a Talmid Chacham. Even though when I first started davening, it was such a far-fetched belief. My husband doesn't know nothing. But today, you see, he's now sitting, teaching, learning, because we daven for it. They came once to Rav Zilberstein, and they asked him, we have a shidduch crisis. A lot of people can't get married. What can we do? What would be the solution? So he went to Rav Elyashiv and he asked Rav Elyashiv. And Rav Elyashiv said, let them daven. They'll daven and they'll be answered. Rav Zilberstein then took this question to Rav Aaron Leib. To Rav Aaron Leib Steinman, and he asked him, what should the shidduch crisis do? Rav Elyashiv said, daven. I spoke to the people, and they said they're all davening. What can davening do? They're already davening for so long. And Rav Steinman said, let me tell you something, says Rav Steinman. He pulls a Sefer Novi. He pulls the Sefer Novi of Malachim. And we read this, by the way, recently. It was the Haftarah for Parshat Vayera. There's a woman. There's a woman who comes to Elisha, a Navi, and she's crying. She cries out. And she says, my husband was a very righteous man. He was a very good man. And he has a lot of loans. And now the creditors are coming and they want to take my 2 children. I have nothing in the house. What's going to be with me? How can I pay them back for my husband's loans? And Elisha says, Ma'eselach, what can I do for you? What do you want from me? And then Elisha says, what do you have in the house? She says, I have a little bit of oil. And he makes a miracle, and the oil keeps going and going and going. The Radak gives us a little bit more detail of what happens over here. First of all, who is this woman? She was the wife of a man known as Ovadya. Ovadya was a ger. Ovadya saw that the king of the time wanted to destroy all the Nevi'im. So he took the Nevi'im and he hid them, 50 in one cave, 50 in the other cave, and he fed them. And he gave them water, and he borrowed a lot of money to be able to feed them this. And then he died. And so this woman comes, and she says to Elisha, help me, my husband was a righteous man. And Elisha says, I can't do anything. Rav Mona says, was it not for the merit of Ovadya's wife, Klal Yisrael would have been lost. There was no more Klal Yisrael. So Rav Shadron would say, what's happening here? What did she do? So listen to this, Rabotai. Listen. It says in the Pasuk, Tza'aka el Elisha, she was crying out to Elisha. Says the Radak, what does that mean? She was davening and begging Elisha, Tza'aka, 265 times. And Elisha said, Ma'aselach, I can't do anything. What should I do? What should I do? And what'd she do then? She then went to the cemetery where her husband was buried. And she calls out, where is Yarei Hashem? Where is the man who feared God? Right? And a lot of the dead people got up and said, was a lot of people who fear God here. And she says, who is the one who feared God a lot? Me'od. That's the way Ovadya was recorded in the Navi. He was Yarei Hashem Me'od. And she goes to her husband and she tells her husband, what's going to be with me? What's going to be with the kids? You promised. You said Hashem is going to help. Where is Hashem? Let him help me. And Ovadya tells her, what do you have in the house? You have a little bit of oil. Tell Elisha that there's a little bit of oil in the house. And he'll make a miracle that the oil will continue. So she comes back and she tells Elisha, my husband, who was a Navi too, I spoke to him. And he said you can make a miracle through the oil. And so that's when Elisha now says, what do you have in the house? Let's make it go more and more. Says, listen to this. Says Rav Shalom Shvadron, why did Rav Mona say, was it not for the merit of Ovadya's wife, Klal Yisrael will be lost today? Says, you want to know why? Here is a woman whose husband passed away. She's got 2 children. She's in major debt. And she goes to the tzaddik of the door. She goes to the Navi. She says, help me. Daven to Hashem with me. Let's make something happen. And he says, no, can't do. I can't do anything. Says Rav Shalom Shadron, what did she do? Did she go out to the streets and scream, give out? Right? Did she start making a protest outside? That she started calling for lawyers and activists? That she started making a planning committee? No. She davens more. She asks the Navi for more help. How much times? Not 10, not 20, 265 times Elisha told her no. And she didn't give up. She still didn't make a planning committee and strategy and protests and posters. She goes to the cemetery and says, I have another Navi I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask my husband. And the whole time, she stuck with the same plan. What plan? That Hashem is going to help me. In the most difficult moments, says Rav Shalom Shadron, there are no rescue plans apart from help from heaven. Such pure faith has the power to uphold an entire generation. In the merit of Ovadya's wife, the Jewish people were saved forever. Because they know that no matter what happens, there's only one address to turn to. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? It's not democracy, and it's not communism, and it's not socialism, and it's not this, and it's not that. And throughout the years, people have always thought these isms were going to bring, and it's not Zionism, and it's not any of these things that's going to help the situation. There's only one help. And that's when we ta'aka, we cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And how many times? Again, and again, and again, and again, and for as many times that a person has to. But what about us? We daven 3 times a day. We come to shul. We pray. We take out a siddur. But do we really, really appreciate the opportunities that we have? Rav Weinberg, Rav Yechiel Yaakov Weinberg, Rosh Yeshiva of the Hildesheimer Seminary in Berlin, and later the Rav in Switzerland. He said that he was one of the students in Slobodka. And while he was a student in Slobodka, it once happened that during his studies, he got so engrossed in learning that he forgot to pray mincha. And so he went to the altar of Slobodka of Narasan Tzvitzvinkel, and he asked him, what can I do as a tikkun? I forgot to pray mincha. But he says, I feel bad that I missed it in the first place. At least he had that feeling, not just make it up. So he went to the altar, and the altar said to him, go back to learning. Make sure you don't miss it, but go back to learning. 2 weeks passed, and Rav Weinberg was learning in the Bet Midrash when the altar of Slobodka comes to Rav Weinberg and tells him today, Harav Naftali Amsterdam, the primary disciple of Yishal Salanter, is in Slobodka. I want you to take the question that you had about missing mincha, about forgetting to pray mincha, and take it to Rav Naftali Amsterdam. And so Rav Weinberg goes and he has a walk with Rav Naftali, and he tells Rav Naftali Amsterdam, he says, listen, I already brought this to my Rosh Yeshiva. I missed mincha one day. What should be my tikkun? What should I do different? And as soon as those words came out, he missed mincha. Rav Naftali Amsterdam fell to the ground in a dead faint. He just fainted. Says Rav Weinberg, when I saw Rav Naftali Amsterdam faint, when I told him that I missed praying mincha, that changed my whole outlook and what it means to be able to pray, what it means to be able to daven, to have this, everybody wants to have with the Rebbe, they want to have yechidus with the Rebbe, private time. This is what a person's having 3 times a day when he prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's having this intimate moment that he whispers while praying. Because in intimate relationships, you whisper. You go to a romantic restaurant, right? It's dark. There's the little candle, and you're whispering. You're not screaming, right? There's this private moment at Kadosh Baruch Hu, and you ask him. And if he doesn't answer you, Kaveh El Hashem again. Kaveh El Hashem. You keep going on it. Yitzchak Avinu wasn't answered. Vayater harba v'hintzim b'tfilah. He continued to pray and pray and pray. Ovadya's wife needed a solution. She prayed. Tzaka 265. Elisha couldn't answer her. She went to another Navi. And he told Elisha what to do. Because there is no other solution than the solution that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And to be achieving that, you have to pray. Now, the Gemara tells us that there are 4 things that need hizuk. 4 things you have to put more effort into it. What are those 4 things? A is Torah. B is good deeds. C is prayer and business. What does it mean to give hizuk in this? So explain the Hafez Chaim. This means that you can't give up. Right? Person starts, I'm going to start learning. I'm going to start with Masechet Brachot. He starts learning. In the beginning, it's interesting. They got stories, right? They know how to set it up. You got the stories and stuff. And then it gets a little hard. Oh, I'm stopping. I'm going to try a different Masechet. Right? No, it doesn't work like that. Once you start something, you have to be mechazik. You have to continue it. Yeah, it gets hard. Everything is always hard. There's always going to be something that's more difficult. We're going through Masechet Sanhedrin. Some pages, easy. You just go through it. And some pages, you got to really work your head out. But a person has to be mechazik. In his, Gemara said, in Torah, in good deeds. Good deeds is one of the hardest things to be mechazik in, right? We all do good deeds to our wives. We give good to our children, to our parents. And they're very easily not appreciated. But a person has to know he has to still doing them. He has to continue to. And you don't get any thank yous, even from other people. People, in fact, you nicer to them, they're going to throw stones at you, right? You ask them, throw smaller stones, because I'm nice to you. But that's the way the world is. You be nice to someone, they sit on your head afterwards, right? I used to have a Rebbe that used to say, my problem is I'm too nice. And I'm too nice, so everyone takes advantage, right? So Gemil's Chasadim, performing them requires chizuk. We talked about tefillah, we need chizuk. Now, in this week's Parsha, we also find Yitzchak is digging wells. And it doesn't work. They fight about it. So what does he do? He digs another well, right? Doesn't work. What does he do? He continues to dig wells. Says the Hafetz Chaim, a person never lets go of his business. He doesn't give up. He continues at it. There's a form of resilience. You have to be resilient. In prayer, we already saw this. We're now seeing it in other aspects in life. A person needs to be resilient, and especially those who are involved in chinuch, right? They say for children, one of the most important things is for them to be resilient, to have this trait of resilience, not to give up. A lot of times kids find something hard, and the parents want to come in, swoop in, and help them, right? I remember once hearing a mashal that there was a child with a very overprotective mother. We call the helicopter mom. She's always over the baby, right? So the kid was starting to learn how to walk, fell, hit. So the mother said, I don't want you to get hurt anymore. I want you to get bruised. She put him in a stroller for his whole life. He was in a stroller. She never learned how to walk because she didn't want him to fall. Tipshus, of course you have to fall. You have to get back up. You have to learn. You have to be resilient. Children need to have this trait. They need to have this midah of where they're able to continue to work on something. They say, Lamosho, with Thomas Edison. Right? Thomas Edison is the one who made the condensing light bulb, right?
Con Edison.
Right. Thomas Edison, that's where you get Con Edison from, right? So he made the light bulb, but he took him over 2,000 tries to make it. So someone once asked him, why did you continue going? Right? So what was his answer? I never failed. I learned 2,000 ways not to make a light bulb. Right? That's a different perspective. I learned 2,000 ways it won't work, and one way that it does work. That's a form of, and now, you don't have to go far. And we have one of the greatest tzaddikim of all times, and Moshe Rabbeinu said the Torah should be given through him. Who was that? Rabbi Akiva. He had so many students, they all died. He should just say, that's it, I'm over, I'm finished, I give up, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. He didn't do that. He took a bunch of new students and said, we're starting from scratch. The power of resilience. This is in Tefillah, it is in Torah, it is in Gimul Hasadim, and it's in business as well. In order to be a successful person, you have to be resilient. All right, that was on that topic. Let's move on to a second topic on this week's Parsha. This one being, okay, this one is over here. Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorites because it really gives us a big difference between Bnei Israel and the rest of the world. Rav Noach Orlowick says over a story that when seltzer was first invented, they started putting the gas into the water. They took the seltzer and they brought it to a gadol. And they poured it to the gadol. They said, you got to try this new drink, this seltzer. So they go ahead and they pour him. And the gadol takes the drink and he puts it on the side. And they tell him, Rebbe, all the gas is going to disappear. You got to drink it right now. And he says, he turns pale. The Rebbe turns pale. He pushes away the drink, says, I don't want it. Don't give it to me. They say, what's so bad? He says, am I going to let this drink control me? I have to drink it fast because it's going to go. It means that the drink is going to control me. Last week we said the famous story with the Rambam that the professor wanted to prove the Rambam that you can train animals, right? And he took the cat, and the cat was the waiter, and all that, right? And then the Rambam came wherever he got the mouse from, right? He took the matchbox, put the mouse, and the cat dropped the tea tray and all that stuff, and started running after the mouse. Truth is, everybody has a mouse in life, right? Sometimes we can pray, we can learn, we can do good stuff, and then something goes wrong. And we say, you know what? I'm tired of all this. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. That's your mouse right there. That's your mouse. You just went back to being the crude version of yourself. You lose it. Because you lost it. A person has to be a ruler over himself. A person has to be able to control himself. Rav Simcha Zissel, the Alter of Kelm, said that if Darwin, would have seen Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he never would have said that people come from monkeys. This was his scientific theory that people come from monkeys. Why would he have not said it if he would have saw Rabbi Yisrael Salanter? This explains how Rav Zev Levi explains. He says that, the whole thing of Darwin was that we're not so different than the primates. We're not so different than the animal kingdom. That's because Darwin saw people with animal instincts. That you showed somebody a picture of something they like, they would go after it. They would run after it. They're very behemoth type of instincts, animal instincts. So if you would have seen Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, a man who was shy, that he was a ruler over himself, that he never would have gone crazy. He doesn't follow it. He's controlling himself. He would have said man has nothing to do with animal. Because animal run after instincts. And here's Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the prime example of what it means to be a true man, of someone who could control himself. He never, ever would have said this. The Alter of Navardok, in his Sefer Madrigas Adam, asks, why is Esav, in this week's parasha, we call him Edom, right? Why is he called Edom? No. He was red. What? He was red. Not just he was red. What does the pasuk say? Lentils. Oh, he wanted the lentil soup, right? And he says, give it to me now. I want it now. And based on that, the pasuk says, that's his name. That became his name. Now, says the Alter of Navardok, we know that Esav was called Edom as a criticism for the fact that he came running in and said, give it to me, the red stuff. Ask the Alter, is this the worst thing Esav did? Esav that day murdered somebody. He didn't even know. Right? That same day he did other sins. Terrible sins. And we call him, no, Esav, you're Edom. Call him a murderer. He's a Rotzeach. Call him all the other sins he did. No. He's the red guy. Says the Alter of Navardok. He says, you know why? What does it mean that the beans or the lentils were still red? You know why the lentils were still red? Raw. They were still raw. Esav came in, he saw the food, he got sick over his desire, and said, I want it now. That's it, I don't care. I want it now. All the sins that he did was because Esav was not able to control his instincts. There was no self-control. I want it, I'm killing this guy. I see this, I want that. I want this, I do that, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want. That's why he's called Edom. Edom shows that his whole thing was he never thought. He never stopped. He never controlled himself. And the Sefer Aleinu L'Shabeach, Rav Silverstein, says an interesting idea. He says, if you look at tzaddikim, tzaddikim are just the opposite. When Ruth came to Boaz, right? She came at night, all dressed up, all nice. Boaz could have come up with a million reasons why it would be mutar. What did Boaz say? What did he say?
He asked who she was.
And then what?
And then he told this guy.
He said, let's wait. We're not doing anything tonight. Let's wait. Let's go find out if there's someone else that's supposed to be for you. Let's do something. He waited. You know, one of my big questions as a teenager when I was learning the Chumash was, Yaakov Avinu finds Rachel, right? Wants to marry her. Says, I'll work for Lavan for 7 years. 7 years go by, right? And he says at that time, he says those 7 years felt very little. It went really quick. I remember before I got married, I had to wait like 3-4 months between the engagement, maybe a little bit more. My wife was in school, I was finishing up school and stuff, okay? So, we had to wait a few months. It felt like forever. It's like, how much longer can I wait? Here's Yaakov Avinu, 7 years. And Yaakov says, it came by so quick. So says Rav Silverstein, he says, because Yaakov is going to build Klal Yisrael. Yaakov is going to do something. When tzaddikim do something, they don't do it right away. They think it out. There's a process in it. And I always tell people always think there's rizud, alacrity, doing something quick, that means just anything that comes to our head, I'm going to do it quick. Absolutely not. That's not rizud. Rizud is, once I know something is a mitzvah, now I do it right away. Not that I don't know. First you have to plan. You have to think. Right? That was the whole thing with the Chet HaEgel. Chet HaEgel was they didn't wait. If they would have added a few more hours, they wouldn't have never made the Chet HaEgel. The only thing is they didn't know what to do. They were in a state of bahala. They were in confusion. I have to do something. So I do something right away, everything turns out wrong. You have to develop a plan, an idea. What am I doing? Where am I going? What's the right thing? Right? Once you have that, then do it right away. That's the reason. Yaakov Avinu is building Klal Yisrael. I can't just get married to Rachel tomorrow. I have to go through a process. I have to wait. And when 7 years are up, he's still worried. Remember, he's an old man already at this time. He's still worried that maybe he hasn't yet developed the proper midot and proper stuff that he needs to in order to build Klal Yisrael. That is a tzaddik. A tzaddik is somebody who is sure that he's a ruler over himself. He's able to control himself. He's able to take time to think things through. Here in the Eitz HaChaim, he wants to say that for a lot of things, one of the labels of this generation is the fast food generation. Everything's got to be quick. You know, if you wait an extra minute for the burger, if you wait a little more for this, it's a problem. Right? I mean, by the Jews, Baruch Hashem, we can wait a little bit. By the Goyim, you've seen people died or were killed in fast food restaurant places because they had to wait. They had to call the police. There was a whole craziness that happens. He says, and here he says, there are some people who expect to become Talmidei Chachamim overnight and get a full night's sleep. Today, everybody wants a program to get Smicha and Dal Chilkei Shulchan Aruch in 6 months. Everybody wants everything fast. We have a fast program. And it's not only in Yiddishkeit. People also want to find a college program. I want to become a doctor. Not only 12 years that's required to go through. I want to do a fast program. How can I bridge it through? And Jews love these things also. Like, how can I figure out another way to go quickly through this thing instead of going through the process? Comes out we have two nikudot here, two important ideas. First of all, you have to have control. And second is that you have to realize that great things take time. It takes time to do something. The Toldot Rebbe, he says, Esav is just get it done type of person. So, Rabbi Yosef, you were talking about before. He says, go out. Yitzchak tells Esav, go out and hunt for me. But Esav says to himself, if I'll find an animal quickly, okay. Otherwise, I'll just steal an animal from someone and I'll bring it to my father. And that's why eventually when he couldn't find anything, he says, I'll bring a dog. What happened over here? Says the Toldot Rebbe, this is the difference between Judaism and the rest of the world. In Judaism, we emphasize process and growing in stages. We understand that you have to go through motions. You cannot just jump to Kabbalah. Every time I meet a lot of Bukhari and Bali Tshuva, or people who think they're Bali Tshuva, they always tell me, Rabbi, all right, what does the Zohar say? What does it say in the Kabbalah? I want to learn Kabbalah. I don't want to learn Talmud. It's beautiful that you want to learn that, and it's great. But there's a process. You cannot just jump into Kabbalah without having Talmud. You have to know the process of stuff. Everything takes time. That's what the Rav Simcha Zissel, the Alter of Kelm, he says that Esav says, give me the beans because I'm tired. He says, what do you mean you're tired? You're tired, go to sleep. Why are you asking for beans? You have to be hungry to eat. So why is Esav saying I'm tired? So says the Alter of Kelm, you know why? Esav was saying, I don't want to work at anything. I'm tired. I don't want to put in the effort that's needed. I just want to get it done. I want a done package. I don't want to work at it. That's what he was saying. I'm tired. Just give me the beans. I don't want to wait. I just want to get it over with. This is a big, big mistake. There is a process. There is a way that you go from stage to stage. If you skip stuff, you're not going to do it right. You're not going to understand it right. You're going to become confused. A person has to go step by step. Says the Toldot Rebbe, an amazing story. There was a child prodigy in Europe. He had a sefer called Chidushei Ha'ilui Mimitzat. I don't know where this place is. Eventually, he came to America. He was a Rosh Yeshiva in Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan in YU. His name was Rav Shlomo Polachek. And says the Toldot Rebbe about him that when Rav Polachek came to America from Poland and he saw children playing toys and games, he cried. This guy was an Ule, he was a genius in his town. Already at 6 years old, he knew all Mishnah with Malpeh and everything. So he was crying. So people said, what are you crying about? And he said, this is what Rav Shlomo Polachek said, if I would have had the opportunity with playing with toys as a child, I would be a greater Talmud Chacham today than I am right now. Why? Why is he saying that to the Toldot Rebbe? Because when a person goes through a childhood and then goes to the next stage and the next stage, he gets more developed. He comes out a greater person. There's stages in life. A person has to go through all of them. That's how you go through, that's how you get the experience. That's why the Talmud says you see even a guy who has experience in life, you have to give them respect. Because there's life experience that comes. That's why the Chazal tells us if a young person says build, and an old person says destroy, you listen to the old person because they have experience. They know, they've gone through life. And a person has to go through all stages to understand that. This is an important idea for us to know. That it's important to go through step by step. Don't skip the stages. right? There's no point to skip the stages. Every process helps in the development of an individual. All right, so that is the idea of Esav and Yaakov, and one of the big differences between them. We're going to go into our third and final, and a little bit more lighter than these past two. And it's a famous story. I believe it's with the Apter right? Apter Rebbe, the Ohev Yisrael. So we have a problem in this week's parasha. What's the question? Esav sold his birthright for what? For a bowl of soup. Later on, Esav wants the firstborn right back. Right? And he's crying about it.
So you gave him all the presents.
So why didn't he say, it's a mekach ta'ut, it's a full sale. I never meant to sell it. You tricked me, whatever. So the Ohev Yisrael says a story that happened, I believe, with himself. There was a Hasid, very poor, as many people were in the day, and his daughter was of marriageable age. And he didn't have the money, so he came to the Ohev Yisrael, he came to the Rebbe, and he said to him, Rebbe, I need a bracha. I have to marry off my daughter. So the Rebbe told him, here's a coin. Right? He gave him a ruble, whatever it was at the time. He says, the first business deal that comes your way, take it. And you're going to be with a lot of atzlacha. So the Jew says, of course, Rebbe, and he walks out. And on his way back to home, he stops by the inn, one of these inns, like a hotel. He comes there, and there's a couple of not so religious Jews there, and they see the Hasid come in. They say, okay, now we're going to have some fun with this religious guy. And they start asking him, what business, what do you do, what of that, what of that? And he says, listen, the truth is, says the Hasid, I don't have a lot of money. I have to marry off my daughter, and I don't know what to do. I need to find something to do. So one of the guys there say, listen, I have a business proposition for you. I'll take your 1 ruble and I'll sell you my olam haba. I'll sell you my olam haba. And the Jew says, should I buy it, should I not? He remembers the Rebbe told him, the first deal that comes your way, you take it. So he said, okay, I buy you olam haba. And the man said, okay, we're going to make a contract. And they wrote out a whole star, a whole document. For 1 ruble, he's selling olam haba, da-da-da. Okay. The Hasid takes the contract. This other man goes home. And he's laughing. He's drunk. He comes home, and his wife says, what are you so jolly about? What are you so happy about? He says, there's this Hasid. Psati came to the place. We made fun of him. We had a good time, and I sold him my olam haba for 1 ruble. What a fool! And he starts laughing. And the wife, also not so religious, but a little more with brains on her head, she tells him, what? You sold your olam haba? You know, we might not be the religious people in the world, but we believe there's an olam haba. Who would sell it? What a crazy person you are. He says, what are you getting all excited about? Relax, it's nothing, it's a joke. She says to him, you can't be here unless you have olam haba. I want nothing to do with you. Go back and get your olam haba. You're not coming back in this house. So now this man is stuck. He has to get the olam haba back. So he runs back to the inn. Is this Hasid still here? He's looking, he's still here. He didn't have money for transportation. He's stuck. So he sees him. He said, listen, I know what we did before. It was all a joke. You know, I didn't really mean it. Here's the ruble back. You know, let's rip up the document. It was all a joke. Hasid says, what are you talking about? It was no joke. I bought you olam haba for 1 ruble. Leave me alone. That's it. He says, okay, I'll give you 2 rubles. Just get it back. He says, no, not happening. 2, 4, 5, 10, 100. Not happening. So this man said, how can I get it back from you? He says, listen, my daughter needs to get married. If you can pay for everything for the wedding, I'll give you back your olam haba. He says, what are you talking about? What nonsense? He says, okay, so then I keep your Olam Haba. So both of them go to the After Rebbe, right? They go to the Ohev Yisrael. And the Ohev Yisrael listens to both sides and says, the Hasid's right. You have to give him whatever he wants. So he ends up paying for the whole wedding and everything. And then this man says to the Rebbe, he says to him, but how it's so not fair. Why would you say it's okay for him to take me, for so much money? The Rebbe said, why? Look, Esav sold the birthright for lentil soup. And then he wanted it back. No one said it's a mistaken sale. It kept. Why? Because everything is worth the value you put on it. When you sold the Olam Haba, you sold it for 1 ruble, that's how much it was worth. Now you want it back, he's selling it for more, because for him, it's worth that much more. You have to pay what it's worth. Esav sold the lentil soup. For him, it was worth just for a bowl of soup. He sold his firstborn right. When he wants it back, now it's Yaakov's. It's worth a lot more. It's really what you value. That's how much it's worth. I remember having a Rebbe, Rav Heshi Wolf Shlita, that once a bunch of Bachrim, we during lunch, in order to get free pizza, we went to a model lesson someone was giving in the yeshiva, but we ended up getting the pizza late, and we ended up coming to Shir a little late. And I remember Ray Wolf said, by the way, you should just know that your Torah is worth 2 slices of pizza. Because you decided to come late to Shir, in exchange for 2 slices of pizza, you've shown what you value your Torah learning. Right? That's the idea. And based on this idea, we, Jews, understand that every mitzvah is worth so much. And that's why we have to take, every time we have a mitzvah, we have to realize how many rubles, how many more dollars each one is worth. The Hafetz Chaim, and with this mashal will end, the Hafetz Chaim would say over a famous mashal. Well, Hafetz Chaim's mashal became famous. If there was a man that he left his family, he said to his family, I'm going to go out and make some business. And he goes out to a faraway place, and he comes there, and he sees the most amazing sight. Diamonds all over the floor. He takes some and he puts it in his pockets. He can't believe he found diamonds. And then he looks around. People are walking around and not picking up any diamonds. So he goes over, he asks, how come no one's picking up diamonds? What? They say, diamonds? It's everywhere. Nobody needs it. He says, so what do people like here? He says, here, there's no fish or meat. Very, very little amount of fish and meat. If you can get the fish and meat, you become a billionaire here. He says, what? He goes into the fish and meat business. And this Jew starts to make a lot of money. So much money. He's winning. Then, he says, I forgot about my family. I'm going to go back to my family. But you know what I'm going to take with them? I'm going to take back all the good stuff. I'm going to bring it to my family. He took boxes and boxes of meat and boxes of fish, and he filled it all up. And he got on a boat, and he had all these crates of meat and fish, and he says, I'm taking this all back to my wife and my children. He sends a letter off. He says, I'm coming back. I'm a rich man. I'm bringing back all my merchandise with me. The wife is excited. Rich man, what is he going to bring back? He comes back into port. The custom officials take out the carts. And they said, we got to open it up. We got to see what's inside so we can tax you. They crack open the crate, and out comes the most disgusting, foul smell ever. All the meat, all the chicken, all the fish, spoiled. He was on the boat for 30 days. No refrigeration. They take it all, they dump it into the water. He comes out, and his wife looks at him. She says, where's all the merchandise? Where's all the stuff? He says, everything got spoiled. She says, what are you talking about? I told everybody in town you're a rich man. What did you come with? He says, listen, I'm tired. I just want to go to sleep. I'm so upset. He goes home. He lays down, goes to sleep. The wife is frantic. She says, what? He just came with nothing. She starts going through all his pockets. Maybe she'll find something. And she finds, in that first day, remember when he first came? He took a couple of diamonds, put it in his pocket. She finds a few diamonds. She takes it to the diamond dealer. He says, this is worth $100,000, $200,000. She gets the money. She comes home and she tells her husband, you weren't complete lost. At least we found some diamonds and we were able to salvage something. Says the Hafetz Chaim, that's exactly what happens in this world. There are diamonds everywhere. There are mitzvot everywhere. But people don't do them. He's not doing it. I'm busy with this, I'm busy with that. And we let all the diamonds literally slip through our fingers. But maybe sometime here or there we did a mitzvah. We come up to the next world. Those are the few mitzvot that we have with us. We can't do that. We can't do that. We have to make sure we don't let these slip through our fingers. We have to make sure to pick up every diamond. They're diamonds. Mitzvot are the diamonds. Everything else that we're doing, nonsense. We have to do it. No, we have to do it. But we shouldn't get bogged down on it. We have to make sure we're focusing on the proper, and the most priority, and the most important. And so this, Rabotai, I'd like to sum up our 3 lessons on this expression. Lesson number 1, the importance of prayer, to continue to pray no matter what. Lesson number 2 was the idea of going through a process of controlling ourselves, of becoming mature and using that life experience. And lesson number 3 is that we have to value the mitzvot, and everything we do is based on the worth and the value that we put on it. And so it's incumbent upon us that we put the correct value. Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should hear our tefillot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should see us going through the process. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should let us value what's appropriate in this world. And in this zechut, all of Chai Yisrael will be saved. In this zechut, we will see the return of all those who are missing, all those who have been abducted. And we should see victory. Be'ezrat Hashem, we should all be zeichet to greet Mashiach. Amen. Shabbat shalom lekulam.